Hey guys, good morning. We have Shekhar back again on this particular show, the review. So today he's picked up a movie which is, a blockbuster. It got so much of credits and so much of name that a lot of studios which have initially rejected this particular story have regretted later as to why they didn't pick up this particular storyline. So let's get back to Shekhar as to why he chose this particular epic movie from 1980s, which got into the large screen. Over to you, Shekhar. Thanks a lot for joining in.
Hi Ravi, how are you? It's so nice to hear from you, and I can see the plants in the background has also grown as we talk. That's
Thank
been
you.
how 2021 has been for all of us. Now, the reason why I chose this movie, this Back to the Future series, is I think it's very relevant in today's day and age. The movie was created by visionaries like Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis. You've got Michael J. Fox, and you got a host of other actors. Real big names behind the movie, but like you said, a lot of studio joints at that point of time didn't were not really very were not really banking on science fiction or time travel movies because I felt because they also felt that there was no market for it. But
Hmm.
now, if you look back now, I think what they spoke about in the movie, which we'll talk about in the next 20 minutes, is actually ringing so true as we talk. The lines in the movie, the situations in the movie, and I have to ask you this question, Ravi, before you ask me that. If you were given a time machine, would
Okay.
you travel to the past? Would you travel to the present, which you are in right now, or the future?
I would definitely not travel to the future, but yeah, if I can, go back to past and to make some changes and come back, yeah, I would really opt for that. Future ka, yeah, I think it would be exciting to go into the future and see what's going to happen. But yeah, फिर life में वो interest नहीं रहेगा ना.
Correct.
It's like the suspense is opened up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's where it boils down to. I think living in the present rather than the past or the future. But
Hmm.
there is always a sense of curiosity about how the past could have been, how the future will be, and that's what I think makes this movie so exciting and interesting. I believe.
True. And thanks for picking this up because वो 1980s के जो बच्चे हैं, those generations who are maybe like, into 30s and 40s or 50s now, or, grandparents who, took their kids and, grandchildren to this particular movie, have beautiful memories across this particular movie. So beautifully done. I think India में उतने popular नहीं थे. I think we were relying on watching this particular movie on a VCR, VCP those days.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I think they wanted to make this movie in Hindi also. Supposedly, they wanted to make this movie with Shekhar Kapoor directing the movie,
Mhm.
uh, Amir Khan and Ravina Tandon. But you know how it works, right? There's a lot of ego at play, and it's all about the money because this movie, if it has to be shot in Hollywood, it was basically a time machine which happened through a car. As
Mhm.
simple as that. So a car in its own way is like a mode of time travel, right? If you think back now, and it's so interesting about how they thought through this entire process. So I believe this was a movie for the ages, right? For the 80s kids, like you said. If you look back now, you look back at this movie with a lot of memories, and you feel that what they said in the movie is actually coming true right now. There's a particular line in the movie where the doctor tells Marty is Michael J. Fox, and the doctor is Christopher Lloyd, and both are outliers in their own way because the doctor's a nerd,
Mhm.
and Marty is just a regular teenager who likes skateboarding and everything around it. Both of them meet in a very unlikely situation, and when they do this time travel thing, the doctor tells Marty that where are the roads? We don't need roads. So they were thinking of a future where our cars would be flying in 2015, and cars too didn't fly because after that the future has gone in some other direction altogether. But the point is they thought so far ahead, which is so interesting when you're talking about the early 80s. This was released in 1985, and this was a movie which was banked by Steven Spielberg, who is a man with versatile talents. He's made movies like Castaway. He's made movies like Catch Me If You Can.
Mhm.
He's made movies like Forrest Gump, and his first movie was Jaws. So think of a man who's make produce movies like this to come in and produce a movie like this. I think it's the range is extraordinary, and it just gives a smile to my face.
True. But one person did take flying cars very seriously, Tesla. So
Yeah,
it did
right.
fly the car across the space. So good one. So what did you like? I mean, what is the experience? I would not talk about the movie, but when you saw the movie, what was the surrounding? Kinke saath dekha tha? Did you go to a theater? What are the memories attached around this particular movie for you personally?
So I saw this movie with my friends from college and
Mhm.
from school, and we saw this in this Chanakya theater back in Delhi, and then we saw it in Vasant Bihar too, which has there was this very popular restaurant called Narulas, which if you go to Delhi has got the I think has got the most popular ice creams. Everything else comes after that. I feel because
So first
uh,
the ice cream, then the movie.
yeah. First the ice cream, then the movie, and the entire setting is so good because you're going out with your friends and you want to watch a movie like this because I think the entire design was very interesting. If you look at the design of Back to the Future, which is also there in your creative, it is very futuristic, and for somebody who's an 80s kid or a late 70s kid, it's fun to watch something like that. You're like, क्या होने वाला future में, क्या होने वाला past में. So the entire storyline is about this guy going and meeting his parents in the past, and his mother actually falling for him, which in today's day and age can be a little incestuous, I would say. But they handled it so well in such a nice manner. They talked about rock and roll. They talked about that, he went back to the Wild West.
Hmm.
For Americans, I think the Wild West is a big deal. When you talk about Wild West, you think about Clint Eastwood, you think about cowboys and horses and everything around it. If we have to go back, we'll have to go back to the golden age, which could be the 50s or the 60s, post our independence, how India really became what it is. But I think the entire charm of watching it on the big screen and to think about how it's like it's an oxymoron in itself. Back to the Future, if you look at the title, I think initially when they got this title, nobody wanted to have this title. They wanted to go with Pluto and the boy from Pluto and something like that. But Back to the Future itself is so open ended. It can mean so many things, and that's what makes somebody like me who was very creative or very curious at that point of time to think about what this movie could be. So those memories are very strong there because the car, everybody wants to drive a car at that age, and you get to drive a car at the speed of 88 miles per hour. So when he goes at 88 miles per hour, he time travels basically. And the entire thing of speedometer, big deal. We now a speedometer is not a big deal, right? But at that point in time, you look at a speedometer and you look at this the speed just changing gradually. I think it makes a big difference as a kid because you're like, wow, एक तो गाड़ी नहीं चलाने देते, उसके ऊपर you see a speed of 88 miles per hour, that too on Delhi roads. So I think it's a big plus when you think of all those things. So that memory is very strong.
Yeah. One of the other series which used to come during the childhood was Street Hawk. This
Yes.
was another thing which I used to get the goosebumps. I उसका जब भी वो nitro on होता था और he used to rush through those roads. So yeah, awesome memories. So इस movie में who's your favorite character and what did you really like?
I like the doctor. The doctor was a nut in his own way, but he had quotable quotes. He spoke about things, so essentially the doctor is an outlier. When I'm saying an outlier, he's somebody which everybody may not understand, but he understands himself very well.
Hmm.
If you can create a time machine, you have to be special, I believe. And if you can create a time machine out of a car, and then meet Michael J. Fox, who was so good at that point of time, and he comes in. Michael J. Fox plays this character called Marty, who's a regular teenager, skateboarding to school and going to college, and then he goes back in time with this guy. I think that for me the best character was the scientist, was the doctor, because the doctor was had a weird sense of humor. He could obviously invent things. He could take you to the past, take you to the future, and get you back. So I would always want to be on the right side of the doctor because he's the only one who could do it, right? If somebody can take you,
He knows the math. He knows the secret. So
so I would want to be with him all the time. He's my man, according to me. So I liked him, and he was a little crazy. Thoda crazy nut tha, and one can relate to crazy nuts like this.
okay. There was another movie which got released in a similar line in Telugu, in Tollywood. It's called Aditya 369. So
Okay.
instead of a car, they've used a round ball, sort of a thing, which basically rotates and then goes to. It was a blockbuster hit, and the imagination itself, it caught attention of everybody. Luckily, the music added to it. It had lovely songs. It had Balakrishna, who was like very charming, and I think this was one of his best movies those days.
Correct.
So, a lot of remakes from Hollywood do not really work well here in India because
Correct.
of the quality of making or the thought process. Somewhere it get messed up, but this was really done well. So, how
Absolutely.
many series did you watch? Sabhi cover कर लिए या?
Part one, part two, part three. I liked all of them because the part one was about him going to the past. The part two was about him going to the future, and there was a bit of that. The part three was interesting in its own way. So these are all sequels in its own way, and I don't think there'll ever be a part four because I think the director and the producer were very clear that the movie ends with Michael J. Fox, and right now Michael J. Fox is around 59 or 60 years old. He's suffering from Parkinson's disease, so they don't want to get him in a role like this again because they're very clear. So that's how that's how they feel about the movie. When you feel about a movie in such a strong manner, that means the product is also going to be really good. So it's just part one, part two, part three, but it just takes you to a different time zone. The music and the use of various things, the quotes they use, the lines they use, and to see his parents actually having an affair and how he plays a role in it, which is Michael J. Fox. I think it's very interesting. Standing up to your bullies and playing music, playing rock and roll. Supposedly, Ronald Reagan loved this movie a lot, and he used it in his presidential address also. So the president was a big fan of Back to the Future series. So obviously, and Princess Diana had also attended the premiere of this movie in London. So
Wow.
a lot of interesting people actually enjoyed this movie. I like I said, this movie was ahead of its time, and it's a movie I would love to watch at any given time, anytime. I love it.
So is it still available? If yes, where is it available?
I think it's available on the OTT platforms. I'm not sure whether it's Amazon or Netflix, but it is available or Hotstar.
Okay, cool. So we have a few people saying hello. So Suman Oscar is saying hello. Arshu is saying happy day, sir. So so same question back to you. So what would you do, Shekhar, if you're given this particular machine,
Just
this particular car, which has a lot of features?
uh, so I would want to go back to the past. I would want to go back to the past for a few minutes, see how it happens there, and then come back and go to and I wouldn't want to go to the future because I would love to see how the past has been. People talk about past being the golden age, the diamond age for all of us. I want to see how it was. The how the policies were made, how the governments were formed, how our independence struggle was, how our parents were, because we only know our parents through the black and white pictures, right? I would want to see all that and more. But I think it's a question which cannot be really be answered whether you want to stay in the past or the future because in a way it's also very uh, there's a certain magic to it. I feel going to the past or the future, but I also believe being the realistic that I'm being the realist, real real person that I am. I believe in staying in the present because I feel this moment is very precious. But these movies take you back to a time which makes it all the more interesting. So it's the past for me, just to see how it's been, and the future just to see how the future can be in more ways than one.
So this is a car, and car has a dicky. Okay, you've got some storage. So what are the things you would like to bring them back from there?
From the
Carry it
past,
along. Whatever can fit into that.
oh yeah, anything and everything. But I think what I really need is a stepney first of all. And I just hope when I'm going at 88 miles per hour, I don't have a flat tire. So that's all I need. बाकी हम देख लेंगे कपड़े वपड़े जो भी है देख लेंगे. But I think from the past we would love to pick up what yeah like we've got everything in the future on the present, right? I just want that experience of just going there and having a look. I think
Okay,
that's what I
with
would
this
like.
particular getup, okay, the way you're dressed today, okay, with this particular hairstyle, you go back to the the past. How do you think the people will react?
I will be a ready fit. People think Rajesh Khanna ka hairstyle hai ye. This is like this because the hair is almost right till the ears. It's actually covering the ears. So at that time, if you have this kind of hairstyle and with those dog collars, you almost look like a Bollywood star in more ways than one. But yeah, I think I would fit in easily because I like to talk to people, connect with people. So
Hmm.
somewhere what Michael J. Fox does in this movie is what I would also do. I would want to know what's going on in the lives. I would want to know, those things which people do. We would all do that. I think that's why we all connect with movies like this because there's a curious streak in all of us. We want to know how the past has been, but we don't want the past to control our present also because we want to control our destiny. So somewhere I'll just go in, come back and have a look, and obviously keep the doctor by my side because I need to come back also. ये नहीं कि वहाँ ही अटक गए in the past.
Super. Thank you, Shekhar. Or kuch, do you want to mention anything else about the movie?
Anything else about the movie? I think the movie by itself is a movie which requires multiple viewing because there's so much one could miss out. Because it's a fun ride. It talks about cars. It talks about time travel. It talks about the Doctor. It talks about Marty, which is Michael J. Fox. I think there's a certain freshness to the movie which is still relevant in today's day and age. As in, in spite of the movie releasing in 1985, and we're in 2021, so we're talking about 20 years down the line. So I think it speaks for itself that the movie is very very fresh, and the movie talks uh, about a moment in all our lives where we want to go back to the past, correct the past, where we want to go to the future and see how our future is, or do we want to stay in the present? That's almost like it actually makes you think a lot, because kya ho sakta hai? Do you really want to take that plunge, or do you want to stay back, or do you want to just make the most of the moment? So I think the movie is very relevant, and I would recommend everybody to watch this movie, like how Ravi said. And this is a movie which is backed by big names like we said, like Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg is somebody who's a visionary, according to me. If a visionary can make a movie like this 20 years, 25 years back, you can think what kind of mindset he has. It's very important to watch movies like this to get an idea and to go into that world, because that's the magic of cinema.
Super. Thanks a lot, Shekhar, for joining us. So, friends, do watch this particular movie. It's available on OTT platforms. So, if you've not watched it, it doesn't have to matter whether you want to watch it for kids. Even personally, I'm sure you will relish a lot of memories that you had from childhood. So, do take time out and relish this particular movie again. So, thank you, friends. Have a great day. Thank you, Shekhar.
Thanks, Ravi. It's wonderful.